The Benin Kingdom was one of the greatest and most highly developed states in the central hinterland of West Africa. It dates back to even the 11th century until it was finally annexed by the British Empire in 1897. Known for its great history and arts and culture, the Benin culture has been studied all around the world. And today we have Imasuen Amowie Izoduwa, who is an arts and culture enthusiast, and we are discussing the importance of the Benin history in modern times. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Today.
I'm very fine.
I love your regalia. What is your outfit, please?
Yeah, it's one of the dressing of the Benin people. But this dressing was inspired by the Catholic priest, the Roman Catholic priest that came to Benin at about the 15th century. So, of course, the Benin people had a strong interaction with the Portuguese around about 15th century, and we also learned some of their ways of life, and I think this is one of it.
Amazing. All right, so we know you as an arts and culture enthusiast of Edo culture. Why did you decide to go down this path?
Well, I did my first degree in Ife.
Oh, okay.
So when you school in Ife, because of the cultural ties between the Benin people and the Ife people, you'll be reminded almost every day that the Benins came from Ife. So of course, I didn't do history, it's just an hobby.
Okay.
So I needed to get closer to a bit of my history, and me doing that made me to realize a lot of the history of my people that I know today.
Okay, so I think we're going to open with the general line of thought of this conversation. What is the importance of the Benin history in modern times, especially because it seems like it's deteriorating? Nobody's talking about it, nobody's really going back to our roots, and the Benin has such rich history. So what do you think is the importance right now in this day and time?
Well, before I answer that question, I like, if it's okay, I like to make an observation.
Please go ahead.
I have seen a lot of videos in recent times dating the Benin history of Benin Kingdom to 11th century. That's not true. All right, 11th century is the beginning of the second dynasty of the Benin people or Benin Kingdom. Obviously, the people exist long before the monarchy. The monarchy, it's a process that emerged from the people. All right, so before that 11th century, the Benins have had documented 31 kings that reigned for a period of about 854 years.
Okay, so this is the Ogiso era.
No, that's the Ogiso era, yes, beautiful. So the eras you guys are now referring to, that the Benin Kingdom started from 11th century, is the Oba era, so which is not true, because we did the mathematical calculation 2 years ago of how old the Benin Kingdom have really survived, and we discovered it's about 2056 years.
Wow.
So that makes it the second oldest surviving monarch in the world, and the oldest surviving in Africa. So it's wrong for you to classify this history as about a 900 years old history. So I think I needed to make that observation.
Okay, so do you not think that what they mean by it dates back to the 11th century, they're counting from when it started having regular monarchs as opposed to the Ogisos that they had previously?
No, that's not. When you use the word regular, that I don't know what you meant by that. But when history is being documented, and a person, you can say, this is Ogiso Odolige, this is what he did, this is how many wars he fought. So, well, that is documented. And when you mean regular, the same pattern of kingship in the second dynasty was the same pattern in the first dynasty of primogeniture of the first surviving son taking the kingship from the father. So I think that's the same case. So when you said the second dynasty is regular and the first wasn't regular, and I will ask...
What I mean by regular? I mean regular kings. I mean like the normal monarchs we have both in Yoruba, in Igbo. I mean regular monarchy, not the irregular or regular irregular kings.
But even at that, Benin monarchs are quite distant from every other monarchs in Nigeria or probably in the world. We started the principle of primogeniture about 650 years before the British started, yes.
Amazing.
So the Benin monarch is about 700 years, over 700 years older than the British monarch. So we've already mastered primogeniture right from the inception in about 40 BC when we had our first king. This is, the present king is 71st king of Benin, 40th in second dynasty, but across the two dynasties, 71st. So it's been regular all through.
Amazing, thank you so much. All right, so back to our question.
Okay.
Seeing as we're so into the Benin history is beautiful. Anybody that's studied it, no matter how little or how much that you've gotten, you find that that's one of the most beautiful stories you would ever read. Why do you think for some reason it's been abandoned? In many schools, even in Edo State, history is not even being studied in schools, especially secondary schools, for one thing. So why do you think it seems like people are leaving the history or are not paying enough attention?
Yeah, I think first that's a Nigeria problem. It has nothing to do with Edo State, why history was abolished. I don't know, whatever reasons they have. But if I want to give you one of the reasons, that's because a series of controversies that now, would you not tell a Benin man that he came from a Yoruba man, he's not going to agree? Would you not tell an Ife man that Benin didn't come from there? He's not going to agree. So it's about supremacy issues. And that part of supremacy issues is revolved around the southern part of Nigeria. Even if you listen closely for what has been happening in Yoruba about the Alafin and the Oni supremacy. So how are you going to tell the kids that Alafin is more superior than Oni, and tell the kids that Oni is more superior than the Alafin? So these are some of the issues that probably could have tell on the government to sort of die down the study of history, but history is very important. If it wasn't important, I would have picked a lot of interest in having to read Benin history for about 3 years now, even if that's not what I studied in the university. Now, history is it's very important because I'm going to use myself as a very practical example.
Okay.
The sort of thinking I had about 3-4 years ago is different from the thinking that I have now. Okay. That's because in that space of time, I have met the raw demonstration of history and what my ancestors achieved in building one of the most dynamic and one of the most sophisticated civilizations the world has ever known. And I realized that they did that because of the spirit of excellence and not mediocrity. So Benins are not great anymore because of we have a lot of mediocres running the affairs of all ramifications of Benin. So, and it want to push me to sort of have this strength to come at top of whatever I do, because I know that's what the spirit my ancestors had that made them build that civilization. So history is really very important in the minds of people. It has a way of shaping the minds and sharpening the minds as well, so that you can be able to pursue every of your future endeavors, knowing fully well that your ancestors have built a legacy that was unrivaled at one point in time. And when you now look at yourself that for about a period of 1,900 years, you were a sovereign nation. You had civilizations, one of the greatest mechanical earthworks prior before the mechanical era, the Benin moat or the Benin War, and we have the Great Benin moat. We have a complex geometrical architectural pattern that the only sort of civilization that had that architectural pattern is the Roman Empire, the old Roman Empire. And knowing fully well that your ancestors did this and they didn't need the Europeans to tell them that, to show them that these things can be done. They did it naturally, out of their natural instinct. It's a propelling factor for the modern generation of the Benin people to want to study, take a closer look at these people, how they did it, and want to walk in that light, and not just want to develop the modern state, but also take a cue from how it was done in the past and trying to find a way of modernizing the whole scope of the idea.
Amazing. Alright, if you're joining us right now on Facebook, we're streaming live on Facebook. I have a couple of comments. Remember, you can drop your comments, and of course, we'll read each and every one of them. Dominion Okeke says, good morning, ladies. Good morning, Dominion. I have Abiodun Rufus, who says, that's our AVA coordinator, General GBD Worldwide. We, the Abuja chapter, salute your leadership, sir. Makinde says, I love art, the guest speaks very well. Thank you so much, Makinde. And Princess Omochiego Ero says, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
So those are the comments that we have right now. Do well to drop as many comments as you like, and we would read each and every one of them. Okay, so now you were speaking about some nationalistic movements, basically how we should believe in ourselves because our ancestors have done so much. How do we increase the spread of this information?
Yeah, well, I don't know how we're going to do that, but personally, I think I'm trying to do that. Of course, I have a group called GBD, Association of Great Benin Descendants. What that group, it's been established for about 2 years now. What the group was to first of all identify all the descendants of Benin who, for one historical reasons or the other, left Benin a long time ago. Because when you talk about Benin Empire, you look at its geographical scope and you understand how huge it was, not it is, it was. And knowing fully well, it covered almost the entire southern part of Nigeria, then to Benin Republic, to Togo, and then to Ghana. So knowing fully well that was huge, that the Benin Empire once got to Ghana, not because I read it in book. I was in Accra about 2 months ago, so to meet with some of the descendants of Benin, the Asian Gar people, and they attested to the fact that they are Benin migrants. And so knowing fully well that there are Benin people scattered all over the world, I'm sure there's an Orobo person here as well, so also traces their ancestry to Benin. And of course there are about 42 of those ethnic nationalities present in Nigeria who traces their ancestry to Benin. So we first of all, my group needed to first of all identify them and find a way to harness them so that we can reignite that brotherhood. Now through that means we can be able to start teaching history, because once you not aware of the history, it's because of the lack of the knowledge of history that makes an Eastern person think that he's different, or she's different from a Benin person, or an Owan person is different from Benin, or probably an Ishakiri. Not all Ishakiris now, just the royal and the noble family of the Ishakiris that migrated from Benin, all right, across Isoko, Urobo, and all of that. Sorry. So history finds a way of reigniting the concept of having to bring all these people together, that they all have the same singular ancestry, and that's the concept. So when we bring these people together and find a way of pushing history back to the minds of these people, with or without the state or the federal government, we still will be able to have a very wide range of coverage of people to be able to tell the history to that. Politics might have sort of divided us, because at that time, before the Benin Empire lost the sovereignty in 1897, so there was nothing like states, like Edo State, Delta State. It was just one Benin Empire, and everybody in there were all part and parcel of the making of the empire, and they were all Benin people in their own right. So that's the concept.
Okay. History has shown that Benin was the home of artifacts, bronze carving. So why hasn't the modern day government capitalized on that to use it as a medium of job creation?
Well, first, I don't think the problem, it's more complex than you think it is. It's not just the government creating policies. For example, if you studied biochemistry in the university and the government comes to you and tell you that, oh, can you make bronze out of these materials? You don't know jack and Jill about it. I think that's the problem. In the ancient Benin, we have different age groups. So you get to a particular age group, then you've been enrolled sort of into the act of bronze casting. Okay. And for bronze casting, like Iguneo, they are not like you enroll people. It's more like a family legacy. Like, just like there are some families, you see them, they are all into oil dealings. That's how the bronze casting was in the ancient Benin. So once you're from that family, you're from that family, you're from that family. So once you're born, the first thing you'll be taught is how to make those bronze castings. All right, so people don't pick interest in all these things anymore, and I don't think there's nothing the government can do about this. The first step is to make people pick interest first. All right, when people pick interest in bronze castings, in ivory carvings, in wood carvings, sometimes we only know about the bronze because it's something that is well peculiar to the whole people. But there are different guilds. There are over 150 guilds of carvings. All right, so we have wood carvers, Igbesavan. We have the ivory carvers. We have Ugboha. We have Ugboka. These were different guilds that does specific duties for the services of the Oba and the kingdom in generally. So people should first of all be educated to know that these things are important. That's how the Obakenswa the first of blessed memory was quoted to be one of the wealthiest king of this part of the world because they had surplus of ivory. There was a time we have so much elephant. If you cross the Ukboba Hill, there's a community called Orig Beni. That Orig Beni, it needs elephant. That Oe means the sort of the center of elephant. So that's what they were doing there. So they had a lot of ivory castings. And so a lot of them were sold during the time of the trading of the Benins, the Portuguese, the Spanish, the Dutch, and all that. So they made a lot of money from it. So the first step for the government to do is not creating just policies that enhances people to start making bronze. You first of all have to create policies that inspires the mind of these people to know that bronze casting can be profit making. All right. When you do that, people started to get interest in this, and when they start getting interest in these things, then you can further build on that. The first thing is to make the Benin people pick interest in that activities.
So, we have a comment from Dominion OKK. So he says, "My God, Imasuen knows a lot. Knowing Benin history is amazing. This is so good, attracting tourism. What is being done to uphold this culture, to impact the knowledge of the Benin history? Because I believe history makes you confident of who you are, what you can do and what you can achieve, and the level of preeminence one has. So what is being done on a personal note? What are you doing to uphold it?" I think that is why he started the organization.
The organization has done so much. First, I was able to confidently told you how old the Benin Empire has survived. That's because we take practical step in, first of all, knowing the history of the land. Then we now have a group where we can pass this history as raw as it is to the people. And we do programs, seminars, to educate the minds of the young lads coming through the rank. And we are hoping in next few months that we can start going to secondary school to educate them, like catch them young. People really have to know that there's some of these social vices now in Benin land that was abominable before we lost our sovereignty in 1897. So there are things that ordinarily people now do in Benin that was never there.
What kind of things would they do?
Well, am I supposed to mention them? You have areas of cultism. You have a lot of persons think that the whole prostitution idea it's affiliated to the Edo people, but that's way wrong, because even the Edo people doesn't even have an indigenous name
For prostitution?
for prostitution. That shows that other tribes brought it. So that means, so we are trying to tell the people that in Old Benin, as you're sitting, when I cross you like that, so it's an abomination. I must make sacrifices. So that's how it was. They had moral institution that was second to none in the world. And when those moral institutions have been trampled upon by these people, you will classify them as people who are not really knowledgeable about the true culture of the land. And that's why I always tell people history is life, or there are things I cannot do because I know my ancestors never did them. So that's because I know these things. So we have to make the people know these things so that they can find a way of understanding that the legacies built by the ancestors is being trampled upon by decisions they have made consciously or unconsciously. So I think, I know we have a lot to do, but one thing I can assure you is that our sovereignty that was lost to the British killed us. All right, and so the whole idea of the Europeans, if anybody should be mad at what the British did to Nigeria or to the Benin people, because everything that we had was taken from us, not just our artifacts, all scattered all over the world, but our moral institutions were devalued. And let me not bring religion, because religion became one of the tools that was used to eventually kill all the backbones that sustained what we were in the time past. But a lot of persons are now advocating that we have to take us back, not take us back to whatever you want to call it. Some might say the primordial era. No, there was never any era that was primordial. That's why in Benin, they'll tell you that there was never a time that the Benin people won plantain leaf. In other words, they are trying to tell you that we have always been civilized all through the years. All right, so we're trying to find a way to get history to the minds of our people so that it can change the sort of their orientation the present they have.
Okay, please go ahead.
All right, so speaking of interest, in terms of building people's interest, now notice that this generation of people are not so interested in history, and history is very important to our time. They would rather do ICT and every other thing that's, in vogue right now. How do we build interest for the young minds to want to learn, especially the youths, who want to know about the Benin history and its relevance and why it's important to them? How do we grow that interest?
All right, I think I have to give you a very practical example as well. Well, as a young lad when I was coming up, I had inclination towards mathematics. All right, so, and my father wanted me to do something that has to do with, that's related to biology. All right, how would they be able to break that genes of someone who grew up with having a very strong mathematical background? How is it going to make him love biology? So he had to start telling me the problems that face the world that mathematics might not solve, but in health-wise, medicine could solve. All right? So he needed to show me practical demonstration of how biology could solve those problems and not mathematics. All right? So I started to pick interest. When you have to show people what history can do to the life of a human, that's when they can pick interest. If people think that what history is all about is just to remind you of the past, history is well deeper than just talking about the event of the past. History connects you to the soul of all your ancestors. Of course, I'm a proud Benin person. So in Benin, our religion, it's ancestral worship. We believe so much in our ancestors. And when people try to criticize that, why do you guys believe so much in the worship of your ancestors, not worshiping of the ancestors? The Benin sort of, right from time immemorial, understands that there are disparity between ancestors and God. All right, so we had old shrines where you propitiate your ancestors, and we have a shrine where you propitiate God Almighty. So we live in the existence of God. Only that we find a way of connecting to our ancestors, because through them we get guidance, through them we get the knowledge of how they were able to solve problems in the hold. I think that's the same concept. When you connect people, show them the practical demonstration of what history could do to people, to do to life. When you tell people that in about a space of 3 years, the Benin people came together to dig a moat as big as Benin City, surrounding the entire Benin City, just for sort of a wallery concept to ward off invaders. Then you wonder that nobody can do that in the present day Nigeria. That how can you dig the Benin mouth? But when you show them that these guys built legacies that were very strong, upright, then show practical demonstration of how it worked that time, they are bound to have a rethink of having to connect to this history of their people and using it to build a stronger future for themselves.
Amazing. Okay, we're going to have to wrap up this conversation real quick. So I think I want to end with this. What did you think, what would you have as your final thoughts for this entire conversation? What would you want the people out there to know about you, your belief, and of course the Benin traditions and Benin history?
Well, I want to tell the viewers that their ancestors, or the Benin viewers now, basically, that the ancestors built one of the greatest civilization ever known to the black world, all right? And that's because they were patriotic. That's because they had strong moral foundation. That's because they had excellence. That's the key word, all right? If you're a wood carver, you are an extreme good wood carver. That is why when you take the bronze casting of the Benin, beside other bronze castings from other regions of the world, ours stands out. So it cannot stand it if those things were casted by mediocres. It was casted by people who really understood the concept of brass or bronze casting. So these guys were excellent in their duties, communal duties, kingdom duties, or empire duties. So the Benin should start breaking forth from the concept of their mediocrity, that when you get to level 5 and probably you're not in 200,000 and you just want to stay back, like, oh, I earn 200,000, doesn't matter. You have to go forth. You have to get to the very final ladder, or even break forth from the final ladder. That's how ancestors built those legacies we are proud of, and that's how we can be able to make Great Benin great again.
Amazing. This has been an amazing conversation.
Oh, it's amazing.
And I wish we could go on and on, but maybe we'll continue after the show. Okay, so Derek Rock says, yeah, there was never a time Benin people wore leaf because we've always been civilized from the beginning. And finally, our last comment, Enoch says, I'm very proud of you, my brother. I'm also proud of him, even though he's not my brother. And there's one thing I think every one of us can take home from this conversation is that we should embrace excellence in all ramifications. You should understand that mediocrity should never be accepted in your life, and you should always try to break barriers. And speaking of breaking barriers, let me announce to you that this is the last and final episode of the second season of The Breakfast Show on TSL Nigeria TV. I was so excited. Thank you so much for being here with us for the entire ride. We'll begin a brand new season tomorrow, so make sure you join us by 9 a.m. on TSL Nigeria TV. My name is Joyce Jukes.
And I'm Imasuen Amowie Izoduwa.
And I'm Joanne Gigbe.
Thank you so much, Mr. Imasuen.
Thank you very much.
And thank you. Have yourself a lovely day. Good morning.
Good morning. Bye.